on the Jacobs lot with a kind of a venue area, you kind of refreshing the pavilion with a public space there for use on the day-to-day, but really achieve, kind of comes into its own with at a festival or something like that. So, this is a piece of the recommendation. We're just showing you the north portion. Down here is a steakhouse and all of that parking lot that we were talking about a minute ago. So the store is along here and here. And so what we looked at was maintaining full-time access through on McCowan Street, northbound only. And then as part of that, using Maiden as a southbound one-way street. And so this would enable cars to come through here. One image, I think, is if you've been to a city center in Houston, where there's kind of a pedestrian and car environment, nice paving, there's no curbs on the side of the main street running north-south through city center, kind of this kind of a contemporary pedestrian space that also accommodates cars going at a slow speed. It's more like a parking lot environment than a street. But this would be, we're also using the term raised traffic table. What is that? It's not fair to call it a speed hump, but you over a period of, over a distance of maybe from me to the door, 30 or 40, 30 or 50 feet, your car rises up about 6 inches, the height of the curb, it goes level and then back down. And so with the decorative pavement and the slight change in elevation, it allows people to, and traffic speed limit signs, it gets people going slow through here, and then there's pedestrian plaza space here, delineated, but it's all beautiful and it looks consistent. And then you come back down here, and then this area of McCowan would be two-way. I'm showing you here improvements on private property. Like I mentioned a minute ago, we did preliminary design to see how it could all work someday. This would be two-way. You would have headed parking here and here. So this would function like a parking lot. You could also then turn and come out contingent on agreement with the private property owner and come out this way, or you can even come in here and park here. So parking, again, kind of a parking lot that would, on a day-to-day basis, would serve as a parking lot. For a festival, it could be closed off, and you would have beautiful pavement that all this kind of functions as a big festival pedestrian space. We can come back to this, but let's just go on to kind of see a little bit more on this. So this is what would be done as part of this project within the right-of-way and then a little bit on private property to accommodate, I didn't say anything a minute ago, but this would be a raised deck with ramps and steps. When I say deck, I'm using that term generically. It doesn't mean it as wood, like in my backyard that I replaced 3 times over 15 years. It would be something that would be durable, and it's just a raised platform that's accessible and serves these 4 buildings here. Why don't we go on and look at the last slide, and then we can come back. And so there's a little bit of traffic control that needs to happen with that. So as people are driving, and I would imagine there might be a 15-mile-an-hour speed limit or something in that area, there'd be a stop sign here and a stop sign here, getting people to stop as they come there, and then a sign here that says do not enter, because we're transitioning from a two-way area, from a one-way area to a two-way area of McCowan Street. Ardura has had their traffic engineers look at it, and while they've not done detailed design, feel like it's a viable approach. I I think especially, this is me adding this, especially at low speeds, would be the important thing there. You can see in a little more detail here, there might be string lights and other things that you know, along with tables and chairs that make that a fun pedestrian space. So we felt like the advantages would be that it maintains a simpler, easier to understand roadway pattern where people can continue to go up northbound on McCown, except when you block it off for a festival, of course, like you could do on any street. And then, like I said, a southbound along Maiden, which is a fairly narrow street, and so it seemed possibly appropriate to convert it to a one-way southbound. Could you go back 2 slides and just, we can go to the other overall slide. I'll stop there and take questions or discussion, whatever you all want to do.
We got the south right of way from Cal Street. What would change here? So the one-way street is an add-on. Is that north one-way street an add-on also?
I'm sorry, by add-on.
So the original scope was no one-way traffic along McCown Street. It was just for emergency vehicles only. We had to do that to allow for through vehicular traffic. Is that one-way street from McCown Street up to Liberty Street? Is that an add-on that we had to add to account for that traffic flow, or is that always going to be needed there?
You mean College?
No, this next one, I think that's
The one in the middle, the one
the driveway.
going west.
Now go back to
Oh, I understand now.
so
Can you go to the next slide?
before it looked like it was
This.
pedestrian. Yeah, is this something that we've had to revise and add in order to account for this change in traffic flow?
No, this is to take advantage someday, if you want to someday, of the Jacobs lot. Can you go to the next one? The project can work if the Jacobs sold it, you did never have access to it again. The way it would work is there would be
A turn-in?
a turnaround spot here.
Okay.
And I was actually a little worried about that, and then I was in Green, over in Zitville, Texas, about a month ago, and drove down a 200-foot-long restaurant parking lot, and then at the end is a turnaround like that. It's understood and easily accommodated by people. So this would be great, but it's not you're not dependent on it for success.
Yeah, I like the raised traffic table because it makes it look like cars aren't really supposed to do it. It's like just subconsciously.
Slow down.
Yeah, but how do you, the reverse of that is that pedestrians think they own the space, and so there could be a safety conflict there. How do you make sure that kids aren't playing out in the street and the guy blows through because he knows it's a street? That would be a concern.
Well,
I guess
that's a really good question. And I think you create awareness and delineation in several ways along. You see it plan, that gray line. And so one incomplete answer to what you're saying is there would be a change in the pavement, and it would be a distinct. The second part of that issue would add elements like planters or bollards. If you were concerned that that's not enough, there could be bollards and chains. So I think the ground plane looks the same, but you do things along there, like you said, a 2-year-old is a different matter, and so it could be even that you have railings.
There are some cities that, particular times of the day, they just close the thing completely off, and they have their nighttime activities. I think Beaumont does that.
Or maybe it's something that we close off until, unless the parking owner starts being difficult, and they're like, okay, we'll allow it to be open.
It does allow you the freedom to manage it the way you want.
I like the ability to manage it multiple different ways. You have through traffic available, then you can close down to open up. I do like all
The only downside, and I'm stepping outside of my expertise here, the only downside I can imagine might be from more of a traffic engineer's perspective, that people get used to it being one way, and that there's going to be some confusion about, well, what am I supposed to do now?
Yeah, I can definitely see that too. So But it almost be like you want to have it to where it's closed down permanently until, unless there's an issue. But the other question is like, we're going through all this work, how difficult is it? Have we, I mean, what if Steakhouse, are they not interested in working with us, or is that, why don't we start those conversations so that we don't have to deal with all this?
They're open to it.
Right, and I'll let Cheryl go ahead.
How many, I mean, but technically, how many, I'm not part of the EDC board, but how many parking spaces does this actually delete?
Yeah, we can.
And where?
Let's look at this other plan, that'll help answer your question.
Because I'm not seeing the Jacobs property as an alternative.
I count 15 right there.
Because we're so parking deficit in town that, you know, that it's, that's a real concern to the businesses there.
It is absolutely a concern. Now, I will say during the master plan, we learned a little bit that it's, and you are not unique to this. I don't mean you, I mean this community is not unique. But there's more of a perception of a parking problem when we compare it to the distance that we all walk at an ATV or something like that. The parking is available, but we, including me, we all expect when we go to the downtown to be able to park pretty close to the place we're going. And so,
No, I'm from Texas, I don't go for the closest door, I go for the biggest tree.
that's fine, especially now.
Yeah.
So we're losing 15 spaces where?
If you were to make a pedestrian,
Well, I'm not a big fan on that, so there's probably something we probably, as the EDC, need to decide on later, because I don't like having a pedestrian path, because there's nothing down there. In my opinion, if anything, I'd rather go the other way, but.
Nobody tells me
The easement through the steakhouse, is it wide enough to facilitate a road through there? And
For a one-way,
sub-base and everything?
for one way, it would be.
Okay. What's
You
that?
know,
you can't do two-way if you didn't have parking, but you can't do a two-way
Yeah.
driveway and parking.
Right.
So I guess the holdup though is that we don't have that property, so we can't design, assuming we do.
One of the challenges, you know, again, with this is and again, this is the concept that was from the master plan.
Yeah.
If you look at the parking area on the north end of the street there,
Yeah.
you know, currently in this sketch, that's a dead-end parking lot without a turnaround.
Yeah.
And so that was part of kind of what the traffic engineers were telling us, hey, you know, this is, this could be an issue if someone is going to back, or they're going to pull in and there's nowhere to park, then they have to back up, all the way into College Street, to get out of it. So the redesign was, kind of, one, trying to strike a balance, and have a little bit of lead off, from everyone being sent to me, as well as, kind of getting rid of the
Well, I'll carry a message from the stake owner, himself. He's not a fan of that trash can in the corner. So do something else with the trash can.
We heard that loud and clear today. We hadn't talked about it tonight, but that's not the future home of that dumpster. Sean, did you have a...
Yeah, and also just to add, we are losing some parking, the current parking that we have here, but we'll be accommodating that parking here. If you see, we have parking on east and west side. If you can go to the proposed layout, right here, you can see the parking on two sides of McConnell Street. Right now we have only one, so we are trying to take away some of these parking spots here, but we are accommodating it here. So there will be not much of a loss of parking spots.
So I'm going to ask a big engineering question. It's my understanding that the city has tried many times to fix that street. It's my understanding that the issue is dirt and shifting, right? It also is my understanding that in order to really do it right, from Public Works, Mike was made the point, you have to go down 3 to 5 feet all the way from, to 105 to College Street and make it that way. So what is the solution to that? Because that's $5 billion we don't have, we'll never have, number one. And number two, wherever that red paper is that an etched concrete solution? And is that part of the solution solution so that you don't have to go 5 feet down, that maybe it's a more palatable solution?
Well, let me answer the second part first and then yield to people. So I don't know about the 5 feet. I guess that's what you all have been told about subgrade preparation.
And Jim, if I can clarify that, I think that's in, kind of to get an asphalt road that never has any, cracks in it, never has to worry about, obviously, if you do concrete or something like that, then that would.
I've never
Good concrete, right?
I've never heard of a 5-foot depth for a roadway.
Right. It may have been an overstatement, but it is a lot of money because it has to be done right. I don't want to do this thing if we're going to do it wrong.
Just to add to that, we have a geotechnical engineers on our team. They will be coding and they're making it. They will code the areas and see what's the base conditions of this road, and we will come up with a proposal of what has to be done, what like if it's concrete pavement, how thick it needs to be, and what reinforcement it needs. But if it's asphalt pavement, we'll come up with a certain composition of what size of aggregate and how thick of a base we will need to use. So that's, we'll get that in 60% once this concept is agreed upon. Then the geotechnical engineers will come in place. They'll code the existing pavement at the edge of streets and then try to come up with the proposal of what pavement is going back.
I can imagine it's not going to go down 5 feet. I mean, there's ways you can stabilize the soil, and a geotech person's going to look under the pavement for us and see, this is the conditions of the soil, this is what we can do to improve it.
I just want to make it a point that given the history of the city, we don't want to do this.
We obviously want to do it right, and we're going to take the geotech's expertise and tell us exactly what needs to be done.
It's a city street and it'll be designed
Yeah.
per street.
to serve like a city street should serve.
Yeah, if you look at the main highways, that pavement is like no more than 11 inch thick with 8 inches subgrade, so it's 18 or 19 inches. It's a low traffic volume street here, so we are anticipating it could be 9 inches or 10 inches of thickness.
To address your question about the material, we first wanted to kind of make sure you all were okay with the direction we were heading, and then material selection involves a couple of things. One is cost, obviously. Another is durability, that you need to be able to do repairs, whether it's utility repair or other things, in a way that you can replicate. It needs to be something that you can sustain over time. And so we'll work with Dave, and I think at the appropriate time, come back to you all with recommendations about materials. There are pros and cons to concrete unit pavers. There are pros and cons to colored, scored, or stamped concrete. So I'm not really ready to stand here and say that there's a way that you have to go. We'll want to look at some options and provide you with those options and the pros and cons of each and cost implications for them. But they will all need to comply with city roadway design standards. So, for example, we probably would not come to you with a flexible paver system like you might see in a public plaza. We're probably going to want it to be a rigid designed pavement that could meet the standards for a city street.
Unless we turn it back to pedestrian. Or if it was EMS, I mean, does that need to be traffic bearing? I mean, I guess pavers would work there.
If we treat it like for example, a fire lane.
Well, they can drive on anything.
Yeah, and we've done fire lanes that are flexible pavement designed with pavers. We've done fire lanes with structural grass paving. I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah, the fire trucks can drive, but like,
if it's just if it's not for public traffic, I think that might change the design, the pavement design a little bit.
But is there any specific preference? I mean, would it be a better option just to go with a rigid pavement so that it is?
If we look back to the existing site photos, if we look back to those photos, yeah, we can, just one more back. So what the city did here when we installed this, and the reason that those pavers don't move, is those are on a concrete subgrade. So you have the benefit of the paver, but you've got the stability of the concrete where you're not, constantly dealing, with the shifting and expanding soils and things like that.
yeah, if we're opening up traffic, I definitely don't want I would want something that structurally sound like this, but if we're just, it just goes back to the question, if it's just gonna be a pedestrian area and maybe used by, emergency vehicle once in a blue moon, then maybe.
If it's, and I'm not the one who'd be designing the roadway cross-section, but if we're designing for something that needs to accommodate an emergency vehicle, we're not going to be comfortable designing that as a pedestrian pavement, that it would need to, at least in the central portion where the emergency vehicles go, we would have a more robust base under
I think
that.
we typically, the minimum we would recommend is 7-inch thick concrete, the minimum.
This is one of the more successful paper intersections, and you can tell in Houston where they've done it right and where they haven't, and here you did it right.
We had a city, or a civil engineer was the city administrator at the time, so,
Well, it worked out well.
yeah.
Other, can we go back to that overall plan? I don't know if there's any further discussion to talk about kind of the basic, I mean, you mentioned maybe you don't want to allow traffic to go through here. If you develop this the way we showed, just like you said, you do have kind of the ability to manage it the way you want to.
I'm more open to it if we have that ability. So for instance, if we have an agreement with the steakhouse that we can use that, and we can shut the pedestrian area plaza off just for emergency vehicles potentially. And then if we just have a disagreement with them, then we can open it up to the vehicular traffic.
You're not kind of, your hands aren't tied.
And again, he did express a willingness, to sell that, to the city. Again, if we're going to reroute, a significant portion, or in this case, all of the traffic, like it was there, we want that to be a right of way. We don't want to, one, it's, fair to him. We don't want him to pay the property taxes on, what's a city street. And again, he's willing to do that. We've just not had the conversations, to kind of get into the details of it. But
He still retains.
Is that his parking right there on that side?
He puts about 7 or 8 cars in the side, he's gonna use 7 or 8.
those would be
seven or eight
dedicated
cars along here.
and then
Yeah, he's gonna lose these 7, that's where I have
it
parked.
would be city.
Well,
Parking
it's-
spaces there.
It's possible that he could still park there if this was sold to the city, or an easement, a use agreement, or whatever. It could include use of those, or maybe there would be public. That's just up to the agreement.
Right, it would be kind of first come, first served basis. One of the things that I hope to do, and it doesn't sound like, is, that we're going to get, there, to the mayor's point earlier, is with the city controlling 213 Prairie, there's opportunity for on-street parking there. We can get about a dozen, spots right there behind the steakhouse. Even if we let everything else go, let the rest of the property, go back to market, it would behoove the city to create some on-street parking there on the west side of that lot, while we can get it.
Yeah, there is an opportunity by the city, I've always said that, while we own that property, to upgrade Lane Lane, perhaps even make it structurally where there's some parallel parking right behind there, and also help clean that entire area up. It's very unattractive.
Well, where we are now, can you go to this next slide? Sorry. Is what you see, it's a concept at this point. And we've kind of vetted it with traffic engineering, and we've looked at drainage implications. And so we're ready to move ahead to detailed design. And as Shaw said, our next step would be to create 60% documents at which we could do a really good cost estimate and look at materials with you. But we don't want to do that until you all are comfortable with the direction we're going, and either give us a thumbs up for this, or say, we want you to look at this adjustment or something like that. So if you're ready to do that tonight, that's great. If you need some more time to think, you can, Dave can coordinate with us. So I'm not trying to twist your arm into doing something, but that's kind of where we are, is to get your direction for the next step.
Like I say, I know there's nothing going on down there, but it does make a better flow through for me, aesthetic and everything else with red brick, it look great. That said, like I say, Beaumont and other cities, when things are cooking like 5 o'clock, most of these, during the day, we want everybody flowing through, but at 5 o'clock and beyond is where most of the business is gonna happen in this town. It just is what it is. And so that would be the time to be able to close that off and accentuate the come and stay while it's supposedly theoretically a little cooler. But I mean, that's one of the things that, I mean, it kind of goes hand in hand. You're not going to eat any ice cream in 105-degree heat anyway. But if you have some shade, you might sit outside and drink some wine or whatever, right? And so creating that atmosphere is part of this whole plan, and it makes no sense to me if we're going to still run traffic through there. And so that's a big thing for me.
To your point, we could take, the materials and just, keep the design, but, with the materials of the street, on the southern end, be able to kind of have some more flexibility, where again, it feels like an extension of that to give us the opportunity to close that down, and kind of test drive it a bit and, let it expand. And if it, is wildly successful, then.
Well, they walk there because their cars are there.
So I don't want to pay a County Street and come back and pay it again. But
Then you go back,
it'd be a function of cost, right? Because that's not going to be the cheapest set. That's a long way to extend.
And so if I'm understanding that idea, this looks a little different now, but that whether it's the driveway or the driveway in the parking bay, and that idea would be pavers, and you could manage it, well, sorry,
If we had
driveway pavement.
I think we shut that down during the wine festival, right?
Right.
Anyway, so that's what, and maybe that's what we're talking about. That whole street gets shut down and turned into.
That's pretty much where it shuts down, isn't it?
Yeah.
And it could be, but they still have public right of way that covers almost the entire parking bay. So you could do that and still have the freedom to manage it, open to traffic or not open to traffic, since it's your right of way.
Yeah, but now we lose the one-way flow of those that
Why do we need the one-way flow?
well, because there's not enough space for two
Just
ways.
not enough space.
You got to come up north and you lose that ability to use all that parking.
And that whole street is going to be raised, right? You talk about like the west part of the county. It has to be raised up all the way across, right?
Well,
And
we're not
even with your,
We're not raising the street. Can you go, let's see, forward one? You see here, even though this is slightly different, the roadway stays relatively the same. I mean, it may rise up 6 inches or so, maybe a little bit of, but it's not raising it to finished floor level. But so this gives you an illustration that we would still go up steps or ramp to reach that platform. And so the roadway, we can't bring the roadway up because the buildings over here are not as high as those. So it's essentially a shared deck along those buildings.
And also there are multiple driveways we have to connect to,
but
so.
down on the other side is what I was really talking about, where the steakhouse is, because it's got a trough look to it. You know what I'm saying? So the width of it, is it going to kind of level out a little bit so it doesn't look like a trough? And that's a sewage.
Yes, the drainage thing, there has to be some cleanup there, like bring it up gradually. Yeah, gradually.
I mean,
Can you go back a couple of slides?
so is it something that you're mentioning here, somewhere here?
No, that's here, that's what
There's like a swim.
Yeah, it's real low.
Yeah, it's like a dish, and it's got I think if I'm not wrong, I think there's an inlet here that makes the flow.
But I wouldn't want to give you the impression that it's going to raise a couple of feet or anything.
I have another question. So what are you going to do from McAllen to 105?
Right now, that's out of the project scope, but that would be, obviously, the next step is to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Do we want to leave, the access all the way to 105? Do we want to close that off? The overall master plan did propose closing it at 105, primarily from John Butler south. With the primary goal being able to, on on 105 to have a right-hand turn lane north on Liberty, but with the McCown Street, where it is, there's just not the room, but without the access.
Ideally, if we could work right away on that to 105, ideally, that's where we might be able to pick up some spots, don't you think so, Dave? From where it is, where the museum is, and head south, is it
Right.
possible we might, if it's closed off,
At least
might be able to
the
get another
portion
5
back.
spots or so there?
Right. Yep.
I would think that, and a lot of what happens there depends on what happens with that corner lot.
As I say, it's going to be predicated on how that shopping property is going to be handled in the future.
Right, it's big unknown right now.
I also wanted to bring up money.
You got any?
During the master plan, we included a budget for all the different projects in the master plan. This had a budget related to it. Since then, we've already experienced incredible construction market escalation, as you're aware. And so I'm sure we're already going to be challenged, budget challenged. The project included this area, the development of this area, and correct me if I'm wrong, Dave, or even Lori, was more about striping and management and not so much about construction. And so currently in the, I don't know what you all have as a budget now, but for the master plan budget, it did not include treatment of the pavement in this area.
Right.
And we're happy to do whatever. I just wanted to mention that.
Right, I think, kind of our just, initial assumptions, back then was this would get, repaved with asphalt on the southern end. It's obviously, the roadways and, kind of, it's being, kind of at least put on hold long enough to see if we can repave it as a part of this project, but not try to, repave all of McCown and then come back a year later, when we've got the funding to build the plaza and, that.
I would think that unless there's some sort of magical thing happen, we would have to take this in about 3 phases over 3 years, would you think?
Right, I mean, there are some opportunities, it's just we're not at the point, we've really dug into them to figure out, okay, what can we, afford.
And there will be, in addition to pavement, I think you all are also on a separate track dealing with storm drainage issues there and a raised traffic table. Right now, the street just falls gradually as it goes down, and there are some inlets, but it depends on the fall of the street to continue. A raised traffic table, as you can imagine, creates a situation. Can you go forward to? Creates a, sorry, I have to reorient myself. Sloping downhill, and then with this going back up, we went ahead and just diagrammatically showed that there would need to be some drainage collection there, and so we just be coordinating with your drainage engineers to make sure that's accommodated. And then if this was going to be paved further on, I don't know that paving it, repaving it, has any major drainage implications, but it would just need to be coordinated. So Dave, I don't know if that, if you all need to consider further kind of what you want to do as far as marching orders, or?
If the board, if the board has an idea now, says, yep, we like this, we don't see any major hiccups, keep rolling, certainly say it now. If you want to chew on it for, a day or two and then follow back up with me, then I can, relay that to Jim and team.
Can I ask a dumb question? I'm one of the people who drives that all the time. With this diagram, your most west street, how do you turn left when there's 3 cars?
I'm sorry, but let me do that.
Stick your hand up to the parking on the, right there. Now go down to that, you're going to turn left on College.
Come out here
And
and
turn left. You have 3 cars and you can't turn left at all.
The street is here, and then this is all here now, and so you would come out.
Yeah, but most people don't use that, don't exit that parking lot right there.
No, and
Today it's not there now, today.
it is not there
Yeah,
today.
that's-
Right now, I mean, one of the goals of the master plan, and TxDOT asked us to do this, is to try to gradually eliminate driveways going out to Liberty to kind of,
Yeah, but I'm worried about college. That's,
why don't we go to the aerial
I'm worried and
photograph?
I try to turn left a lot.
Keep going back to the aerial photograph at the beginning, please. There are parking spaces here now, and so people come out, and so this project wouldn't change that at all.
Yeah, but you're putting an exit to where it says design only. Is going to have an exit right there for mine.
There would be an exit here, and so they would come out here and turn, but that's a possible future thing. It's not included in the scope of this project.
Okay, yeah, no, I understood that. I was just trying to understand, I'm visualizing my wife driving.
Yeah, I think the driveway would be here, and you would come out and you would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 70 feet.
So that would act like more like a driveway, where you'd be taking away a few of the parking spots here, would act like a driveway with a curb, probably, and it would force you.
So you think there's enough room?
There should be, I mean, at least, we're assuming we're probably taking away two driveways.
Yeah, no, I'm just questioning you because with your other diagram.
Well, and that's why we wanted to show you some initial study, because we don't want to do something that's going to cause you problems.
Right, and I'm just looking back at that, the new proposal versus the old proposal.
Mhm.
And I see parking, but you only got one row of parking, maybe two. But, okay.
It's essentially leaving these parking places right here.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about inside the property itself, not on the street. Not
Oh, okay.
But inside.
Do you want to go back and look at that again?
Yeah, if you don't mind backing up a
Okay.
little bit. Now, right there where your yellow back and forth, right there,
Uh-huh.
then we have to turn left to get onto Liberty to go north to my house.
Uh-huh.
I'm just wondering if there's sufficient room there.
We
I
think
mean,
so.
just if you're busy, you got 3 cars going, I mean, I hate to turn right and go back into the issues of the
Right.
downtown area.
Right.
Especially when you talk about making, was it Maiden? One-way street.
Which is about 2 feet.
How many parking spots do you
Well, there's 3 plus this, so that's about
have? So from
50
close to 50 feet, yeah,
How many feet?
close to 50 feet,
So you
so
think
you'll have probably 2 to 3 cars.
Okay, that's, well, 2, 3 cars is
Yeah.
going to be a good job.
Glad you're here to answer that.
Yeah.
So far, I think that's.
Other questions or discussion?
So does the board want to, does the board have any direction, that you're ready to give? You want to sleep on it? Follow back up? If you don't follow back up, what's the direction? Is it, I don't, you guys tell me, kind of how to coalesce your thoughts?
I think nobody's jumping at let's go forward, so maybe we should let's have a discussion, and decide if we like this design or if we want to see some additional changes. It didn't feel like there's I don't know.
I don't know if there's anything that I'm really concerned about this, because I mean, we added a through street, which was kind of already there before, so we already agreed on that. And then now we have a turning lane on McCown Street, and that's fine. Only thing different I see now is less tables in McCown Street, which is fine, and maybe some less trees. I'm noticing a little bit fewer trees,
But
but
we need to get buy-in from Wayne before we.
Again, I think Wayne has agreed in principle too. I don't want to put words in his mouth, but he's open to
do
doing
we
it.
want to try to talk, see where that conversation goes before we try to design around, assuming you won't give us that?
I think we need to at least get his buy-in because this design incorporates the fact that he bought in.
Right.
This is for
We haven't got that yet.
It's about,
Well, and I don't like the raised area with the one-way traffic. If you're gonna make a plaza out of it, make a plaza out of it. Don't have anybody going.
I think you're right.
You go ahead and close it.
Yeah, I agree.
Diverse the traffic only.
I would agree 100% with
If
that.
I was gonna get spunky on this part and consider like a phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, my inclination would be to take care of that most busy traffic area that's right around the steakhouse and wrap it right around and solve all of that problem first and get everybody ready to flow somehow. If it means temporarily closing off at certain times, we want to play with it, play with it. But we have an awful looking
It
thing,
looks
and I
awful,
would
but
love to have it come alive, you know, as soon as possible. Because that other part to me is a 2-3 year away.
This
You know,
part?
our budget cuts that we have right now, we're so slim on everything, right? And so if we were gonna get spunky on anything, that would be it.
You're talking about
I'm not
what?
ready to get spunky tonight.
Can
And
you
I'm
go-
talking about the most busiest thing.
You're kind of talking about this?
Traffic. Yes.
This-
I would want to get spunky there because my questions, and a lot of us, I would think, are that walkway strategy and what, and especially the Jacobs lot. Because that was not even in my mind, and I know why you pulled it in, because it does want to pull in the whole thing, and that's the plaza part. I'm not ready for the
How does that
plaza.
affect, how does that affect the businesses though that are right there, you know, on the, where the plaza area is going to be? And where people, how are they going to get to those businesses?
We're still going to get there, we just regulated how we need to regulate it.
What do you want to do?
What do you do, right?
What do you want to do on the west side? Are you wanting to repave it all? I mean, it functions as a drive-through parking area.
Yeah, with a lot of dips and whatever else. I mean, I would want, if we're going to make any improvement, let's make improvement for whatever it is already there and get used to, get the right of way going in the area behind the steakhouse.
Well,
That's what it's about.
Resurfacing in that.
Yeah, resurfacing and the flow of the water, the flow of the traffic.
Well, if you're going through the steakhouse, you're obviously gonna have to do something, because he's got a parking lot there. You run private trucks through there and it's gone.
Yeah.
So there's gonna be some work anyway to do that, but that's,
So how long are we talking between phase, is this a 3-phase project? Just
Yeah,
for this little
I
area?
think it's just, right now, it's just the pedestrian plaza and the parking to the east of it, right? And then restriping over here in McCown Street.
So what's the timeline, would you say, once you get the go-ahead and the permit and everything is needed? Typically.
What we were intending to do was to move ahead, designing that project in its entirety, not including Jacobs lot, but to prepare detailed design drawings and specifications and all that, and it would be done in a 60% submittal and then a 100% submittal after that. And do you recall, Jonathan and I talked about, I believe we talked about,
Maybe if it's blessed today, if you want us to go ahead, if you wanted to start designing it, and probably the first week of November, we can come back to you with 60%, let you review it, and once we get your comments back, then we need 8 more weeks to go for the next submittal.
Does y'all scope include,
I mean,
repaving of this parking area by the steakhouse, or is it just restriping?
Even resurfacing, because it's going to have some impacts with this race table.
Yeah.
It will have some
So
impact.
we're resurfacing everything within the project area?
That's the intent, but depending on the budget that you have, you can probably
Can you do it into like 2 phases, where we have resurfacing based off of geotech recommendation, right? Is that what that, so it's basically demoing and resurfacing, making into geotech improvements.
We would get that, yes.
So that was a nice road. We're talking maybe breaking this out into 2 phases. Phase 1 is either one of the two. So you have the resurfacing project on one, and then the pedestrian parking as 2. So that's more manageable from a fund standpoint.
So
Right.
Funding and planning, I think there's a lot of considerations here in the plaza that involve the Jacobs lot, and I'm not completely sold on that Jacobs lot.
You're wanting to do,
I'm wanting to do the resurfacing on what's our busiest part of town that gives us a function and aesthetics and
is
everything.
it possible to break these up into
2 phases,
2 phases, the whole phases?
from the construction, absolutely.
Okay.
From the design, well, let me throw in drainage again.
Yeah.
No matter what you do, drainage before you start repaving. And if you're gonna do any other utility work, you don't wanna get a nice new parking lot and then.
And so we've done drainage, right? Haven't we done everything underneath it?
We've done a study on it.
We've done a study.
We have not done any physical work or improvements yet. We've been waiting
So,
on underground.
I think it would be most prudent to get it into 2 phases and make sure you come back with some sort of a money figure.
Well, I think
We're right in the middle of the budget.
If you're gonna do it 2 phases, you're saying, I mean, whenever you're doing drainage changes, you have to rip up pavement to get under there. And so I guess if we'd have to hear a recommendation maybe as far as phasing, maybe you can, maybe you can't, from a design perspective, do the parking area first. And I don't know, you're gonna design it as one big whole thing, that means we have to construct it as one big whole thing.
No, you can design it all at once and draw a line. wherever you want.
I think they're just trying to decide if they can get the go-ahead to continue with the design phase.
Whatever
That's all we're doing right now, right?
Whatever we draw, you could do it in 2 phases or 3 phases or 1 phase, Flora, you were gonna.
Yeah, one concern with McCowan Street is you do have that bowl effect. So when you go through and they redesign the drainage, which has to tie into the pavement design, it is going to elevate your roadway.
Yeah.
So it's a reconstruction of the entire street. If you try and break it, because your low point is like right at the curve of that blue arrow, if you try and break it there, you're going to have tie-in issues in the future.
That's
So you
what I'm
really-
saying, if we can't really actually do it in phases, I'm asking, can we?
It'll be more difficult on a short section to do it in phases because if your drainage issues at one end and at the other end, great, but it's in the middle is your major drainage issues in the time.
So do you see us being able to split this into 2 phases from a drainage perspective?
As of right now, no, because it all drains south to one point, and you want to tear it up all at once to get it done. You want to do the
So
drainage
we could do the drainage there as phase 1 and College Street all the way down, or, down to Caroline, right? Could we do what's underneath and functional? As phase 1?
Well, then your streets be damaged. You still have to fix your street, so you're doing it.
Well, that's what I mean.
But you're doing it double, meaning you're gonna pave it and then you're gonna repave it again once you get to your
And
final.
also the inlet, if we're trying to fix the bowl effect, your inlet, if you're trying to set those inlets, they're gonna be raised up. So
Right.
you really need to do grading and drainage at the same time.
It's at the same time, yes.
So that would be considered great.
Yeah,
Phase one,
phase 1.
But I don't know if we can break it into 2 phases.
Even,
It's all-
yes, everything is going together, drainage is flowing one direction, system is flowing one, storm sewer is flowing. So they all have to be done at
It's
the
also
same
like being
time.
a 60%.
But that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to go into the Jacob's lot, does it? Okay, okay, that's what I'm saying, that's all I'm saying. Let's go from Caroline to College Street, all the way down, turnkey price, make it look good, make it be functional. And then we'll worry about Jacob's lot later. But still, like Dave says, it needs a transition. But I think we all agree, Red Prater looked good, and we want to pass through as much as we can with foot traffic. We all agree with that. I just would like to see maybe Jacob's Block become phase 2.
But it's not included on this project at this
So
point.
what do you want from the area west of the pedestrian plaza? Did we already in agreement? I guess we're not in agreement on what we want to do there, though.
So you mean south part of the plaza from the plaza to the
South plaza, you want to do pedestrian pavers, but maybe that's not an add-on option, where instead of doing concrete, we do stamped concrete. We look at the cost.
And those are just materials choices and even could be bid alternates.
Yeah, that's an add-on or something like that, instead of doing concrete.
Sure, and those are simple decisions.
So is that, are we on board with that? So I think we need to put this on pause until we see if there's any momentum behind getting the right of way from the steakhouse and negotiating the deal with the steakhouse. So is that what I'm hearing? Is that what we?
Maybe we need to get that in writing. I think the engineers wanting to know.
Can't go with this design and let these guys lose until they know that this works.
Well, this design is assuming that he's not going to work with us, and I'm saying, what if he is willing to work with us and he's willing to give that over to the city?
No, I think this does assume that he is.
Assume that
This design is.
Sorry, would you go forward to?
Well, right, we need to say go ahead, contingent him working with us.
So the revised design
That's all.
allows you to manage it either way. It allows you to continue to have
Oh, I see
traffic
what you're saying.
or to not have traffic.
I'm okay with it.
You can manage it whatever way you want. We would go ahead and design this where it accommodates day-to-day traffic if you want to use it that way.
So it can go either way.
Yes. In case in future, if you prefer to be closed down, you can permanently close down this too, in case in future. if you-
Okay.
Is there a way you can close it down to through traffic but not emergency vehicles? Is that just like a breakaway chain or something?
To allow,
Because we always want emergency vehicle access through here from emergency
it
management.
would be handled by signage, and then you might, if you knew, and here I am standing between two engineers and answering the question, if you thought you wanted to not have day-to-day traffic go through here, one way you could approach that is something like a rollover curb here that helps tell me in my Volkswagen not to go up here, but it allows a fire truck or an ambulance or even service vehicles for that matter to do that. And so I think if you want complete freedom, then we would design it as a raised traffic table. If you think you're going to have the general public turn this way, we would want to know that so we could design a little more of an implied barrier.
And I think that's the question is if we think we have access going south, then we can make it more raised and separate. If not, we'll just move forward with
I
this.
think we should go ahead with the feeling that he's going to go along with it.
Okay,
Let's just, and these guys can build a raised slope.
I mean, it's going to be raised no matter what.
Yeah.
So, but if he doesn't work with us, then we can make that more pedestrian. If he does work with us, we can make it more pedestrian. If he doesn't work with us, we're going with this.
I think,
But I'm okay with this. It looks great and it communicates, you know.
I think it would help if you all can tell us with some confidence that you think you want traffic to go this way or you want traffic to go up here, and that will help us do the right thing here.
Do we need to pause?
So if you need to pause a little bit to reach your level of comfort, that's okay.
I think there's a question mark whether the traffic can go. We want the traffic to go south.
Down on the
Sorry, east. We want traffic to go east, down on the image. That's our preferred. That was what was in the original plan. That's what's shown here. Maybe we just need to firm that up. Is this
We need
a
to
yes or
see
no?
it in writing from,
Yeah, we would need some type
we
of.
need to
I would
know
think we
for
suggest to
sure
know in writing, so we feel
Yeah.
confident about
he's
doing
either
this.
selling it to the city or
Yeah, because then.
whatever he's doing, that he's comfortable with that, because y'all are saying he is. I spoke to him and he's not.
It certainly needs to
I
be
need
in writing.
somebody
And if
to
he's-
get it
And
from
if he starts pushing against it, then we can be like, okay, whatever, we're not going to deal with it.
Well, okay, for the purpose of this visit though, let's just pause it for now and get us buy-in or not. And give these guys a call back and say, yes, do it this way or that way.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Sounds good to me.
And Dave, you have a copy of this presentation, and so you have that to refer to if you all want to have others.
I think overall the design's great. We all agree with that. We just got one little chink in the armor we gotta get worked out. And we'll figure it out.
We'd rather you feel comfortable
Yeah.
with what you're directing us.
Yeah, I mean, your guys' word, we failed to plan to fail. We want to make sure we got the plan. It's certainly easier to budget off the real plan than the one that you might think you want.
And then maybe that also gives us some time to think about your idea, Byron, with extending the pedestrian plaza south. You can make that more a permanent fixture, or it could just be more of, let's change it from concrete to pavers, and that's an easy change later. So maybe just give us some time to think about what are we envisioning for the area south of the plaza.
So once you get your subsurface done, your drainage and all that, you've got your,
We don't want to go back
you
and
got
do
your
it anymore.
platform.
Yeah.
Then you can just build on top of that.
So for the purpose of this day, we don't need a motion, we're just going to table for now.
We don't need a table, but, we don't need a motion, but we're just gonna, the direction is to just hold fast on the design until we follow up with you.
Sure.
Okay.
We're happy to do that.
So it's a good presentation. Thank y'all for.
Thanks for the good conversation. Please sit here. For the board and as well as Jim. So when we temporarily close this on the event days, so how do we control the traffic? Like if somebody is accidentally entering into the street and this is all closed, so we have to close it at this point on the event days?
Because you can't go through the state council.
Yeah, so that's something we keep.
Are there ways, with this day and age of technology and all kinds of things, are there ways where a city can come in and close either Caroline or the other, depending upon what time of day, whether it's a Saturday, whether we got an event? Are there portable units that look attractive, that can fit in, that can be sort of a crosswalk or whatever? We can't go here from Caroline, or we can't go here from that other.
The easy solution would be to use barricades.
But they're just barricades. You have to deal, didn't you get complaints from people all the time, like, I could just drive here yesterday, and now I can't drive here today, what's going on?
Well, my thought is-
People are having.
They're just given the nature of our town as it is and the activities that come in. And again, what I studied, a couple of years ago is most of their business is going to be 5 p.m. and beyond. And that's just the way it is when you're going to go to historic downtown. It's very tough to get that. And so when we have the activities, the festivities and stuff like that, then it bodes for something different. And that's the way it is anyway. I mean, the foot traffic is not there every single day.
I mean, you can do removable bollards. You can have little holes in place where you put a bollard there and you just can't drive there. That's an easy solution, but you have to have someone haul them out there to get to them. I guess some of them,
I mean, the barricades
the
are
really
great.
expensive ones can come up
Yeah.
from the ground, but those are really expensive. But
I just think the aesthetic look would be better if it was red pavers from that mall all the way up. And really, to be honest with you, 105, because again, you've got that red paver look that when you come into our town from the east and eventually from the west, and then you come in and you've still got that red paver look, and you look from there to the community center, and it's just a straight shot.
yeah.
So aesthetically, I see it that way, and functionally, it may just be simply a barricade, and you just move a barricade to suit your.
At 60%, are you gonna bring the pros and cons on, like, pay for the different, okay? Because that would help, because that's gonna be, one or the other could drive the prices way off, and I think we're obviously losing on budget, so I've been thinking pavers all the way down 105 could be way more expensive than what we're wanting versus just doing a stamped concrete or something. I'm thinking about pros and cons on that.
Yeah, at 60% will be in a good shape to give you a closer view of the cost estimate of the project, and give you what kind of paving it goes, and we can probably give some kind of alternatives for the materials if required.
So Dave, is that something that city staff is going to be able to do for us, is reach out and see what kind of options are available, or is that something we deal with the attorney on, or what's the next steps on acquiring right of way for the east access?
I think I probably got the best shot at getting, the deal done with them, so it's, really to me.
Okay.
She gets an agreement, we get the attorney.
All right.
Okay.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you. Good discussion.
Thanks for coming out.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. It's good discussion. It's great to see you.
Sure, it's supposed to be here. Is that the city's?
It is, it's the police department. They got all the money over there, buddy.
I was going to tell you, there's a settings, power, it's just a power settings, and it'll set it to where it won't cut off.
Yeah.
I had to do it on my own.
Timer or something?
Yeah. It's just got a built-in timer.
Do you want to wait on Byron?
Yeah, we'll wait on Byron.
this one quick. Okay. Okay. I'm timing you. I'm okay. Okay, Dave and board, are we ready to resume? Yes? All right, so let's jump back to item number 1, which I believe was the minutes from May. And we haven't received the minutes from, these minutes were very thorough, by the way. Who did the minutes? You did it? Thank you. They're like extraordinarily thorough. We're probably going to be somewhere between there and where we were you know what I mean? But they're very, very good. But we want to, I'm thinking somewhere in the middle. Condensed version of it, yeah, just not to work this hard.
I used to do the minutes, and I know it's an extreme amount of effort, and it's painful. So, and I think for even our own benefit, I think just having a condensed version that we agree on is the best. It helps with expediency on staff's part and not wasting their time, and then also making sure that we have
Just as long as we got
a cliff
the
notes.
tenor of the idea,
Yeah.
But I don't want you to have to work that. That was really, really good, though. Thank you. Thank you. So anyway, so we'll entertain a motion to accept the meetings. Is this unless there's any debate or discussion? Yes, no, maybe?
I'll make the motion.
Okay, so Ryan Lundin has made a motion to accept the minutes as is. Do we have a second? All right, so Dan Walker has seconded, so the motion carries. The minutes have been accepted. We're going to move on to item number 2. We've already had the chance to review, so we're going to jump over to item number 3. Review and discussion of the proposed fiscal year 2023-2024 MEDC budget. I'm going to acquiesce to Dave. Dave, or would it be Carol?
No, it's Dave.
Dave?
Just checking out, I'm sorry, I might have missed it. You guys voted on it.
Yeah, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Sorry, it's been a few months. Okay.
All right, I'm better now.
So,
Thank you for reminding us.
so over there, in your packets, and as well in front of you is a copy, a hard copy of the proposed budget that was put together by the finance director and by Gary. And what I want to do now is just kind of walk you through the high points and discuss, some of the things that are different this year, and there's a lot that's still the same.
Okay.
So, in looking at I'm going to go off the sheet that's in front of you. There's a staple together, starts out with a few line items on the top. And looking at the revenue this year, again, our only source of revenue is sales tax. We get 1/4 of the total 2% that the city collects. And we are budgeting $1.167 million, which is a slight decrease from what we had budgeted this year. I think the numbers, about, it's in the single digits. I think it's got, 6%, 4%, somewhere in that range. Just trying to anticipate, some of the economic headwinds, that we are seeing, like interest rate, with rising construction costs. Looking at, what we expect to be on the books in terms of the commercial development side. There's nothing wrong with if we get more sales tax than what we're paying. That's spectacular. We can find something to do with the money. But for our budget this year, we are paying just a small correction in the market. Just so we're right on track to meet our sales tax for this year to meet budget. In years past, we've exceeded what we budgeted by like 5 to 6 or so percent. So we are seeing a slowdown, even though we do anticipate, hitting our budget number this year. We do expect, the good times don't last forever, and so we might should just be more cautious than not. There's a lot of talk about recession. Doesn't seem to have, materialized, but that always seems like it's a news cycle away, from being on the doorstep. So,
I'm okay with that.
I'm fine with that too.
Yeah.
and on the next page, we'll go through some of the line items in your budget. The far right-hand column is the percent change from last year. So I'm going to be looking at the second from the right column, which is the proposed. It took me about 5 years to learn how to read a budget sheet, sitting behind the guy. So if you guys have any questions at all, don't hesitate to ask. So in looking at our category 1, which is our public infrastructure, the big move on that is that first line item, the downtown development improvements. If you guys recall that, in years past was kind of the zeroing out, line item. That's where, the money that, didn't already have a home was being allocated to, based on the total revenue that we were projecting. And so it started out with the project identified. And guys, I'm sorry, if y'all would mind, if y'all would take that out to the parking lot or sit tight. It's hard to talk over. So if, so we're asked to come down to 29,000 on the downtown development improvements. There, mainly this is, what that 29,000 is the, finishing out of the contract that we have. The only thing right now that we've spent out of there this year is for the downtown, the McCown streetscape design. That's the only thing that's coming out of there.
Was that like a running total, or is that just reset every year? Like, where did that money go before? Like, so we had budgeted 280, we only spent 23.
So that ends up in your reserves.
Okay. And I had mentioned this in the past. Is there a way we can earmark in our reserves money set aside for downtown improvements? It's just one big bucket, right? And it's just there. But it'd be nice to have like a separate category where like this group we're saving up for in dedicating this money. So we are setting aside money every year, just like I would for I'm thinking personal finances. If I'm going to make an improvement to my house, I'm setting aside money. Can we do the same thing here?
You can. I think, another line item down there that I don't think we're funding this year, is, you know, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, that investment incentives growth fund is what you guys have. That's a similar thing of, you know, setting money aside, you know, for the future. You don't have to actually put that in a separate account. You know, you can segregate, you know, your money, you know, within your reserves. You can look at your reserves, and that's a, you know, a policy decision that the EDC can make and say, okay, you know, maybe good for the next meeting. Let's look at our reserves. Let's see what those are. And, you know, we can earmark. Some are just for general things. If you want to take, you know, a chunk of your reserve and say, okay, that's for, you know, the downtown, you know, project. So, yeah, you can do that. You know.
I think it'd be helpful for me. I don't know if everyone else is in agreement with me on that, but it's just like I see we have these projects that we want to do. We're not going to be able to fund them all at once. So setting aside money as we're doing design, we can't do construction yet. We know that we have this X number of dollars dedicated to these projects. So whenever we're ready to construct it, we know that we've got the money there.
You know, one of the issues with trying to do that, you know, the way that it's been done just in your annual budget, you know, as a line item, is you're not going to chew through all of that money. So, you know, do it, you know, from a reserve side is a little, you know, bit more of a longer view, which makes a little more sense to be able to do that, you know.
Yeah.
You know, that way, if you've got, you know, a project that you're going to undertake in the coming year, you know, certainly, you know, you want to budget for that, but to put, you know, $280,000 in a line item and expect that, well, if you know, everything lines up just the way that it needs to, then, you know,
Right.
The 280, I don't think had, you know, specific needs, you know, tied to that. Again, that was kind of the delta between, you know, here's how much we have coming in, here's how much we're going to spend, okay, everything extra is going to be that, you know, line item. So what this reflects is, you know, actually spending the
For the
money on projects.
consulting services, yeah. Okay.
No changes to the other line items. The utility extension project would be the $50,000. Again, that would be kind of an economic need. Business is coming, but they need a little bit of help getting over the finish line because they have to extend a water main or a sewer main or something like that. The $200,000 into transfer to capital projects. Again, the EDC 2 years ago, last year, elected to contribute $200,000 toward a capital project. So the year-to-date is $133,333. That money's not actually spent, it's just being transferred to the capital project fund. You know, we've not allocated a project, but we can look and see, you know, what we should tie that to. Certainly the city has a lot of needs on capital projects. And then streets and sidewalks, again, budgeting $40,000 there.
What is that for?
That would be for if the city were going to undertake, you know, a sidewalk project, if there was a one-off, you know, streetscape, that you said, hey, you know, we want to, you know, restripe this area, we want to add, you know, planters along the road here, or we want to build a sidewalk, you know, from like one block. That's about what $40,000 is going to get you.
Yeah.
But it might be for something to say, you know, say that side, you know, something happens to a sidewalk that's, you know, connecting a park or something like that. And, you know, but again, that would, there's nothing that's been spent out of there this year, you know, on a sidewalk. Does that answer your question? Yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't go very far. Same with the utility extensions, 50,000 doesn't go very far. So I'm trying to envision how often that comes up, but.
Right, it does not.
If we don't use it, it goes into the reserve fund. So for now, it can't be.
We're on business development, so this is your, let me back up 1 second. I'm going to say that on your category 1, the public infrastructure, so the total there is $319,000, which is 27.3% of your total budget this year.
How much?
27.3, and the total on that is $319,000 is what the budget is there. The category 2, which is business and development, got sales tax reimbursements. Again, those are for agreements that the EDC has already entered into. Still budgeted at $250,000. The two that the EDC does participate in, for those that aren't aware, just as a refresher, are the Kroger 380. So there's a portion of your sales tax that's going to the Kroger 380 that comes, within the Kroger area, and then just across the street at the shops, which is where the CVS, the Chick-fil-A, and all those are the developer of the shops. There has a sales tax-based 380 agreement. So what this number is to account for the liabilities that go along with this. Economic Development Grant Program, we've got $20,000 in there, no change. As you can see, we've not spent anything out of that this year. That is application-based, so it's just depending on who submits to you guys and fits the criteria. Downtown and corridor facade and environmental enhancements, I think is what those abbreviations say. That's a mouthful. So there's $50,000 there. I was not involved in the development of that line item on the budget, and it is self-explanatory to some degree, though I don't see the difference in some of the other. Like for instance, I'm not really sure the difference between that and the downtown development improvements, but I think I see kind of the point is to be able to expand outside of the downtown.
We also have another one, quality of life downtown enhancement project. So we have 3 different categories to downtown, which is confusing.
So,
Yeah, but
They're different categories: public infrastructure, business development, quality of life.
do we want to just eliminate that? What does it even mean?
we do a little digging, I'll follow up with you guys. This is the draft. You guys will see this again before it's adopted. There's also a council workshop on the 22nd that I would like to take the opportunity to invite y'all to, because they'll be, looking at this fund along with all the other city funds.
I would say that I've heard, we have a new accountant, financial person named Mary Ann, and just talking to her, she brings up some good points about trying to avoid too much specificity and breaking things up.
Yeah.
Because you're going to regret it later on when you find out a bigger need. You could have used that easily, and now you have to go back to a budget amendment. It's just, and that comes into play with her, the events in general. 174 is better to do that because year after year you don't spend X number of dollars in those deals and you're left hanging with those amounts. So I think it makes more sense in this budget and the city budget to try to simplify some things. So you're going to see a lot of those line items begin to squeeze together.
That'd be nice.
Hey, Dave, real quick, in our previous discussion, as we're vetting and working towards getting a director, I don't see a line item for that. Is it possible that we could move one of these? Is it somewhere?
It's going to be down, that'll be on page 2.
Oh, okay. I didn't see it, though. I don't know why I didn't.
Is it the consulting? No.
Admin transfer.
Oh, admin.
Oh, it's all part of that admin.
Okay, never mind.
Okay,
It's not in there.
The 275.
It does say consulting.
Oh, wait, no.
I asked today.
If you guys will let me dig through a little bit of this, then I'll start.
Okay. I just, there's some fluff in there that seems like doesn't need to be there, but maybe we can move some of that to where
I don't see it. Yeah, it's not on here.
The who?
it's not on there.
No, the
Transfer
director is not on here.
No, but the transfer to admin, where is that? I don't see it.
It's on that last page.
It's on the last.
It's
46,601.
That $275,000.
It says transfers to general fund.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is that what that is?
it is.
So that's
No,
to the
it's
city's
not a
general fund?
director.
There's a breakdown in there. I know that Mary Ann's working on one set of stuff, but if you guys just give me just a little bit, we're gonna get there.
Need it in 5 minutes. Just joking.
So this is the city's general fund.
Yes, it's city general fund.
Okay, that's all.
Okay.
Okay, gotcha.
So, wrapping up, business and development, 27.4%. Your budget is going to business and development, $320,000 total. So under quality of life, as I mentioned, we are not budgeting individual events, we just need to have, as far as what your budget needs, you need to know how much you're spending on those. The next agenda item, we're going to kind of look through some of those events and talk about, kind of how those, how that number's there and what you guys have done.
Okay, sounds good.
So the 4 events, the 174,200 is 14.9% of your budget. Moving on to category 4, marketing and tourism. This is where we're spending 1.6%. There's no change to any of those items. They're the brochure and printed literature, the website, social media advertising, and historical signage. So now we get to that category 5. Transfers to general fund. So just behind that sheet that I gave you, there's a loose leaf piece of paper that shows you, that is not it.
I see it.
So where this $275,000 breaks down, $240,195 is allocated to personnel costs. What that includes is 33%, which is what the EDC has historically contributed, city administrator salary, or total compensation. I don't say salary, I want to say total compensation, because that includes, 1/3 as well of the benefits, the health insurance, and all that good stuff. What the EDC has not supported in the past is the pay for the finance director, because the finance director is working on behalf of the EDC. The city secretary does work on behalf of the EDC with regard to the minutes, the posting of the agendas, and that type of thing. Last year, the EDC funded half of the events and parks and rec position, so we're at a crossroads. The new council does not want to move forward with any parks and rec programming, so that leaves the EDC to either pick up the events, the other half of the events person, if you still want to have events. So, because there's just, if the city wants to sponsor, events, both the publicly, held events, the events person doesn't do anything other than try to coordinate, make sure everyone's on the same page for the private events, and that would be your charter gigs, festivals,
Well, who is that person?
That's Patty Campanella, who's the designer.
And how, is she on staff right now?
She is, yes, she's been on staff. We hired her last, if you recall, the EDC budgeted half of that money last year.
I remember that, yeah. But I'm wondering though, so what you're saying is that the city council doesn't want to participate at all in events?
Well, they don't want to have the function, the other, so again, not the events, but so when we hired Patty, or when we decided to post actually last year for the budget process, so the EDC said we're willing to fund, we need an events person because we want to do the Christmas parade, we want to do the water party in July, we want to do the snow party, we want to do
all the events, I got it.
Football, we want to do all these.
Yeah, I got it.
We need somebody to do those.
Right.
So that's what Patty was hired, that was about a half-time job. So the other half, which was proposed to council last August, or the council from last August, was, one, really good thing is we've heard, hey, there's not a lot for kids to do here. There's, the parks could use some extra stuff going on. Right now, our parks are entirely a passive experience, right? There's a walking trail, there's a playground, but it's not like there's, things that are held, in the park, or, kind of what she had done this spring was a kind of a mini camp, just during the day for kids at the community building, kind of a spring break thing.
So Dave, what does that number represent, 100%?
100%. Total compensation is about 70 or so thousand.
When did
For any events?
when did the discussion come up that the city wanted MEDC to pay 100% of that girl's salary. Did I miss that meeting?
Well, they didn't want to do they said that they didn't want to do any more Parks and Rec stuff, that there was too much risk and liability involved. That was during the workshop with, that was right about the time of the election. And so at least the council and the council members elect said, hey, there's too much risk involved and there's too much liability on the city to do stuff with Parks and Rec, and we felt like it was rushed. So staff.
Well, that's half her job, but she's going to not have any responsibilities with Park and Recreation anymore?
Right, we're reorienting that to, one, to be able to plan for, other events and new events, to make events better. Part of this is, just kind of a little longer view of saying, hey, look, there's stuff right now that you can do.
But she's not 100% events with MEDC right now. She's doing other things, and I don't,
Right, right now.
I must have missed the meeting where city council decided to move her strictly to MEDC. I do not know anything about that.
No,
And I'm not
what this
comfortable
is. That's a proposal for the EDC right now.
with the 100% EDC funding her position.
I'm not either,
That,
I'm not either.
for the same reason.
that,
Doesn't make any sense at all. Okay, so you're just saying that's up for discussion right now. This is just a proposal. Okay.
Right, that's,
Yeah.
but then the
Maybe
next
council
line
needs to
item,
rethink their
I'm
position a
ready
little
to
bit.
hear that one.
Something like they've got a city employee that we're paying for.
Yeah.
Exactly. But,
Exactly.
I'm kind of with Dave on that. I don't understand. We do events all the time, we've got liability, we're covered in liability. You're sort of handcuffing somebody and limiting them to just a few events a year for $70K? I don't think so. I think it needs to be something a little bit more meaningful, right?
There's no way we're going to pay $100,000 for
Party planner.
party planner.
Not happening.
Yeah. I mean 100% of 70.
Yeah, 100%,
whatever.
yeah.
That's what I meant.
But I see the frustration because it's like city council, when did city council elect to break away? I mean,
they gave staff a direction, and it was during a workshop, and said, we do not want to move forward with any Parks and Recreation program because there's too much liability and risk involved in that. So staff's direction from that was to pull back on that program.
Yeah.
Who made that?
The main thing, Jeff, is that what we were brought to in May, if I remember right, without any preliminary information, was basically those types of things that involve minors, kids, camps, and such, and then continuing a recreation program that was going to have maybe 20 days at best to get up and running, and they were going to go into it. We didn't feel comfortable. We had some feedback from the audience that substantiated how we didn't feel comfortable in terms of saying they got church camps, they got band camps, we don't need to be in the business of camps. So we all had the sense that it just ain't ready to roll like this. And as you know, for a year we've tried to redefine what is this position. I can just tell the EDC going into tomorrow's night and tomorrow night's meeting and proceeding forth that there's going to be very few of us, in my opinion, that are going to be comfortable with that salary to begin with, if that's all it is. I can assure you there's other administrative things that position can do, and my gut feeling is that that's the way that we'll direct the staff to go.
Okay.
And so because we are expecting a lot of permit work and things that's going to swell in the spring, and perhaps, I'm just an educated guess, that maybe there's some administrative things, and she has been brought under the administration rather than Public Works. And so that's still formative, and my gut feeling is nobody here feels comfortable with the full 70,000, so there's the direction there, and tomorrow we'll get greater clarification.
Okay.
Yeah, to coming into a portion, we have no problem with the portions that we're.
We agreed to a portion, we didn't agree to 100%. So I think it's just, we don't want to be blindsided by that and say, okay, sorry, we don't want to see her out of a job either.
Vocalization here that we aren't going to take 100%, and the city council needs to find like other roles for this
Right.
person, or redefine it somehow to where we can still
Figure out
keep
where the budget
this
is.
person's, I mean, this is someone's job.
Yes.
We need to be considerate of that, and so if we need to come up with new things for this person to do, then
The EDC
But the
seems to be
EDC
comfortable somewhere in the 30s, if I remember right, like half a salary, 20s to 30 range, right? Was more what we were comfortable with.
Yeah, that's more, but there's other things on this administrative transfer too that look like have been, that have padded a little bit.
Well, I would say they've been, missing for the past years. So, but to run back to the one when we were talking about the full-time EDC director.
Yeah.
So there is some money in there, and it's about $39,000 that would be the difference in the amount of, so when we hire a full-time EDC director, that means a third of the time of the city administrator is not going to be spent on EDC stuff. So there's money moving, so part of what would pay a full-time EDC director is the third of the city administrator's compensation out of that admin transfer. Not all of it, because the city administrator is still going to manage or supervise, is a better word, that full-time EDC director. The EDC doesn't have the capabilities for HR, for payroll, and all that. So this person, that full-time director, is still, staff's recommendation is for them to be a city employee that's funded by the EDC. Because again, that, your cost will increase exponentially if the EDC wants to take on, kind of the employment arm of hiring a person.
Hey, Dave, it would be helpful, would you be able to break down this, this bulk number here, 240, just to kind of let us know what's going allocated to where?
Sure. The reason I did it now is because I would really rather, I can talk to you guys about that, offline. It's not something I want to put in a public document.
Got it, okay.
Just because it's a working document, and I'd really rather.
Just wait till we get it a little bit more solid, or to where we've got an agreement, or what?
so you can send individually.
Solid numbers, I just didn't put it in this packet because didn't want to, get off in the weeds on it. And again, it's, yes, all of our salaries are public information. We've had our salaries posted before, and people getting our salaries and, putting them on social media. That comes with the territory. But again, if you'd like me to email you the breakdown.
Yeah, that's fine. I just wanted to understand a little bit better.
So do you have a better figure on what the EDC director's pay would be, even under the city?
Would be in the 120 to 130 range, so that's a salary of about 90 to 100.
And this money is in this 240?
Yes.
270. Yeah, 240.
So, again, it's not all, on Mary Ann's end, on finance director's end, it's a top line number. But
So if we took out that 70,000,
down to 35, are you saying you don't want to fund it in that position at all?
No, we're just saying take it down.
Take it down to half, which would seem to be the intent for the past year. We've just had trouble defining it and still having trouble defining it.
Okay. So if you take that down to 35, then you're still looking at
Still
somewhere around $205,000 that needs to be allocated, or we just need to understand the allocation. 130 of that would be to the director, and the rest remaining would be split amongst however, in whatever way. Okay, I understand it better now. Because, and we're working, we've already had a meeting to begin the process. We're going to get a director moving along here pretty soon. So, okay, good. I understand that, Dave. Sorry, I didn't want to stop us, and just want to kind of understand it.
So some of the things that, again, the EDC has just never really paid for in the past is the use of the room that we're in now. you know, the use of the person's office, that, you know, when we talked about, you know, the events person, you know, that person is housed somewhere, they've got a computer, they've got a phone, they've got email, they, you know, so, you know, what we're trying to do is better reflect the idea that if the EDC had to go out and rent an executive suite and pay for a phone and do that type of thing, this is what it would run. The other item there, you know, again, the technology communications office supplies goes into that. You know, kind of same thing, the use of the facility in the office space. One of the things that the EDC has also never paid for in the past is for a portion of the audit, which is part of the city's audit. This is a third of the audit.
How did the use of facilities and office space get calculated? Is that like a percentage or something? Or?
It kind of breaks down to, you know, looking at it, it was a total of, you know, looking at, you know, office space at about $500 a month, which again is comparable to an executive suite. Looking at, you know, roughly $500 a month for phone, internet, computer use. Looking at $100 a month for the use of the live stream system here. You know, the EDC's portion of the website. So back on the other website, that's the tourism website that the city funds, but it doesn't account for the city's website where the EDC page is. Some of the things, you know, like the cleaning of City Hall, those are all kind of part of the, you know, the suite range of what it would be to, you know, again, if the EDC, we're going to say, you know, we're not going to use City Hall, we're going to go out and we're going to do our, you know, we're going to have, you know, we're going to pay for our own space to hold meetings, to house an employee. That's what those numbers are. And again, they've just never really been, you know, reflected in the EDC's, you know, kind of share of the cost before. And so with Mary Ann, with Gary here, that's what they're, you know, are suggesting.
Okay.
So we'll cut that figure down to about, instead of 275, to about 240.
Okay.
Could be 240, yep.
And 33% of city administrator, is that before or after the director?
I think it's
That's
before.
before. That's kind of the,
From director,
So
come out of the 240,
you know, contribution is there.
which would be about
So the-
130. Leaving one,
Yeah, I guess just send me those numbers.
Yeah.
I suppose the EDC should look at this as the potential is there, perhaps, I mean, I'm not sure, that if there was an EDC director, that perhaps some of the other compensation
We'll go down.
could go down if that EDC was capable of doing, well, obviously agenda and those types of things, right? So as you infuse the EDC director, then you don't have to bother the city secretary, perhaps.
That's what I'm.
For their own work.
You know, again, you know, like I had offered to you guys or suggested to you guys, I think the city staff ought to do minutes, you know, versus, you know, one of y'all. If one of y'all want to take
Yeah.
minutes, we could, you know, and the agenda stuff goes away, then sure. You know.
But I suppose it's possible, I mean, Gary may feel differently, and I could understand that you wouldn't even need, I mean, if you found the right EDC person, then maybe you don't need Gary hardly at all there.
Well, he's
I mean, obviously,
managing
he's still umbrella.
HR stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was our conversation was some of the money from the city administrator recompensation would go toward a director. Right?
That's right.
So that's not the 33% though, that's, today it's 33%.
right.
Right.
Like if that number goes down to, you know, again, I don't know what it is.
Well, I would think that person's part of their, minimal part of their role would be to set up agenda meeting for our meeting and stuff like that. I mean, all the secretarial work and things like that are going on now should fall into that scope, just even though we haven't fully fleshed out, that job, but what we talked about was, throwing the kitchen sink in there, but so this is all preliminary right now. Okay. All right, so I understand it. We'll have time to flesh it out a little bit now that we understand it.
And so the total on admin expenses is 28.7% of your budget, or 335,300, again, with that expected to come down by 35,000.
And what's the, oh, sorry, Evan.
Second.
The consulting professional services?
Thank you for pointing that out, that 51.8.
Yeah.
So what Gary has recommended for your sales tax tracking, so the city has historically paid for that. That really is an EDC, that's in the EDC's wheelhouse, and economic activity is related directly to that. So given the city's budget this year, we're asking the EDC fund the 16.8 for that. There's 20,000 in there just for general consulting. There is 15,000 in there for light removal.
Got it.
That was previously under category 3. There's 15,000 in there for light removal, which, because again, that's going to have to be done by, somebody that we hire. Light removal, according to Mary Ann, it really didn't fit under the quality of life. Yes, it improves it, but you've got to hire somebody to remove it.
And it's cleanup.
Right. It's a consulting service that you would, go out and hire.
So that, the blight is being moved into that?
Right. So right there.
I mean, we haven't even been spending the, okay, so how much is the sales tax software?
The sales tax consultant is
Yeah.
16.8 per year total.
I mean, but the city gets sales tax also. I mean, that's a revenue stream, so why does the EDC have to put that bill?
That backs against the wall this year, and we're asking now for funding. There's not a simple way to say it.
So if our back's against the wall, we're still comfortable spending $175,000 on events every year?
Y'all is really looking, about the same, because again, it's all sales tax driven. If the economy falls off a cliff, y'all are, y'all are a lot harder, pressed timeline, but, right now, what's compressing ours is, kind of the tax calculations, the new revenue rate versus our tax rate, and where there's been a lot of cushion in years past, right now the two are, I'm not a finance person, and then I'll get lost, real quick and start talking about, the way that the state makes the county and subsequently us, calculate our tax rates and what the minimum revenue rate is and the voter approval rate. So
We're really hamstrung. We're really, really hamstrung.
I'm just making the point of, do we want to spend $175,000 on events if we can't even, if the city can't even pay for sales tax? If the EDC has to pick up sales tax consulting services? It's just, I don't know. But, so going back up to the events, 175, we're consolidating all this, which is really nice, I guess, from an accounting standpoint. Is that $174,000, is that a summation of the other categories? Do we go back to the first page?
Without any cuts. Well, it shows the cuts though there, doesn't it?
if we could bleed in a little bit to item 3, well, commission is, that's a good segue into looking at the events because
Is this just when do we vote on, do we vote on this?
Not yet.
Not yet?
We're just discussing.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the city has another workshop tomorrow?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you guys would look at this handout that talks about Is there a handout there or is it
No.
just in your packet?
It's in the packet.
It's in the packet.
Just in your packet? Does anybody need a copy of it?
I'll take one. It's on my computer.
Here, you can see.
Okay.
I'll just share this.
I'll take a copy if you got one.
Was it in our packet?
It was. Should be the last one.
Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay.
That's pretty much, oh, well, that was,
See, I didn't know how we came to 174,000.
Well, it looks like there's a downtown enhancement projects under here too.
I don't know if it's redundant or
I don't think it's actually included.
is quality of life, yeah, right here. But see, it's not in this blight removal.
So we added removal of blight to this category, but we also added downtown enhancements projects to this category. So we've got like 4 different downtown improvement categories.
There's nothing budgeted for last year. Well, there was $30,000
Oh, yeah.
under downtown enhancement, but we spent nothing.
Yeah, I just don't know what these categories mean, so it's confusing. And I would like to track us, I'd like to know how much we have reserved for these downtown improvement projects and how much we're setting aside each year so that we're achieving our goals whenever we establish that of revitalizing downtown. So we've got public infrastructure, downtown development improvements, which is the consulting services. Then we've got business development downtown,
Okay, so I got it.
business development and invest incentives growth, and then we've got this category under here under quality of life,
Yeah,
which is another downtown.
I think what we need to do is consolidate that for sure, but what I'm seeing here is they just rolled it up into 174K.
Yeah, all these.
And it's all these, yeah. They
Yeah.
just didn't break it out as it is here, but you
Under a
just,
single, but I mean, why are we putting blight under quality of life events? I mean, why just have a quality of life?
That's what we're moving out of. We're not adding a removal of life.
We're just gonna call it, can we just call it quality of life? I was just confused because it says events, but then we're adding blight into it, and then we're adding this downtown improvements to this category also.
Those, I can't speak to some of those. I know that in years past, y'all would talk about something and say, we're going to agree to add a new budget line item and all of this. The problem is,
It's like
2 years on.
Becky's brainchild, I guess.
yes, so Dave, that downtown enhancement project, it's been budgeted every year and only spent $2,000 in 2020 and 2021. So it's things like that. I think we could remove some of those line items and
There are statutory requirements, and I believe, so this year, so if we take that downtown enhancement project, is going to be part of our budget this year because we spent $2,000 in 2020. Next year, it can roll off.
oh, I got you, okay. You just can't roll it off yet, but you don't have to budget more than $2,000 for it, right?
Why don't we could just leave that category and drop the others?
Right, we're not budgeting anything.
We haven't spent anything on business development downtown. We could drop that off. And then the other downtown enhancement projects, we haven't spent anything on that the last couple of years, so that can drop off, and we just roll all that money up into downtown development improvements. Unless there's a reason why we broke downtown development into 4 different categories. I just prefer to have it under one, and that's a fund dedicated to improving downtown.
We're here now,
I mean, that's what I would like to see. But
I think it's a good idea because it's confusing to have it in 4 different line items, so. But we're just talking about this right now, right? We can do anything that's.
When does the budget have to be approved?
by the September meeting.
Okay.
if you have time, if there's some feedback on what these categories were intended for, that'd be helpful. Otherwise, I say we just roll it all up into one downtown. And I assume one of our main goals is to improve downtown. So we'll have a single budget item dedicated to downtown, and then we'll have a reserve budget dedicated, these funds are dedicated to downtown.
Yeah, and if we need to do some extra paving, we can send it to Mr. Sanford over here for downtown.
There you go. So and then Blight, okay. And then they're at the 70, so we got 2 events, so 90 toward event.
Most of these events will continue on. If I'm looking at them, they all look like things we're going to continue to work and sponsor and develop, assuming they continue to have them, correct? So those probably are going to stay the same in the 74 and...
What about that pet parade? Have you ever been to one? Did we do one?
Oh, no, we didn't do it.
Why do we even have it? Yeah. What?
If you see there, sponsored events budgeted in, 22 and 23, so I listed those.
Yeah.
And the Lone Star Flag Fest, what was that?
I think that not when we put out all the Texas flags.
And it cost $5,000?
I don't know if you spent that or not. If you look over here and see up there.
I'm going to go with that tonight.
Lone Star Flag Fest year to date, it looks like EDC spent $1,000.
We only spent $1,000.
Yeah.
I mean, we could always revisit these later.
I think that would be real helpful is to understand, go back through the budget, and certainly, Carol, you know what we spent, so maybe we just go back through and see what we spend and reallocate accordingly. It's a good starting point, but we need to adjust some things here, it looks like.
Right. So what y'all budgeted this year was 141 total under your, for events. That includes everything on that first page. That's what you've got budgeted, not for this coming year, that's what you budgeted for the current year that we're in.
That's how much?
141.5.
And how much did we spend?
I don't know what your expenses are. I'd have to add up, but it said the years they activity.
Yeah, I don't add them all.
What having the event specialist has done is,
Snow is 20, last year we spent 13.
She's done what?
Looks like about 55,000 spent.
To some of the existing event, budgets, like one that stuck out, to me was, we spent way more on the Christmas parade this year than what was budgeted, $500 or $600. So again, she's looked at that and said, well, okay, if we spent that, then we need to either, cut something out that we're doing now, or we need to up the budget for the Christmas parade a little bit.
Just doing this in my head, it doesn't seem like we've spent more than $60,000 to $70,000 of 141 budget at this point.
That you have, but again, I don't have that.
So do you happen to know whether we have the flexibility to be able to garner that money that was allotted in this budget, along with whatever else we can find?
It just goes into the
hold
reserve.
that and be able to hold that in reserve, right? It sounds like that's what we're wanting to do.
Yeah, but I want to earmark that. So this is all falling off to the reserve, but earmark it for something. Which would be like the downtown.
I think that's the primary thing that the EDC wants to do, is to be able to act on what we just said as assertively as we can. And so if we can garner that much money that's possible in this one and project forward in the next one, it sounds like we want to go after realization first.
Exactly.
Right?
That's the goal.
Okay.
Okay, good. Well, at least we have some direction on what not to do. And that's helpful.
Now, looking again at this page 2, so again, we talked a little bit about, why we're budgeting just for, events and, developing a list, based on last year, what it is we want to continue, we want to separate, we want to drop off. One of the things that I did want to ask the board about, because again, you guys were here, I went must be free admission. I took this right off the website.
Really?
And
That's like the street dance or that type of
well, I'm
deal.
just wondering how that squares with the music and mud bugs and the fall festival, because those aren't free admission events.
Well, we wouldn't be able to get our $8,000 back if they were.
Granting a waiver or anything like that.
Is that in bylaws or is that just on the website?
It wouldn't be the bylaws, it would be the policy.
In the policy?
And I'm assuming that when this information was put on the EDC page, which it would have been either Amy or Becky that did it.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that they took them from a policy document that the EDC, agreed on.
Weren't the, like the mud bug and all that, isn't that considered the grant application or not?
Well, it's also a private sponsored
I don't think it's a grant.
See?
Dave's like, what do you want to do? Dave, I think you're right. I think we need to clarify that because it sounds to me like, well, that horse already left the barn several times. So maybe we need to either clarify it on the website or, I don't think you can say that event must be free. That doesn't make a lot of sense.
Well, not any of
Not when they're putting that kind of money out.
The way I'm taking this is if the EDC is going to, contribute a sponsorship, that it must be free.
What would be the purpose for?
I think these are in a different category. Like I say, I think this is a grant program to where we're basically expecting our money back. It's not like we're giving them, we're getting part of the door.
Gotcha.
So.
But it's a festival grant program, right? Is what you said it's under?
Yes.
And then under it says festival must be free admission events?
Right, again, I took this, right off the EDC page, and it says the EDC Festival Grant Program, so maybe we're just not treating it as already did as a festival grant.
As a grant, maybe.
Seems a whole lot like festival, to me, but
Do we take that out? Festivals must be free admission events?
I can dig around, but I wanted to ask you guys if y'all.
I think my opinion is we get rid of that statement because
We haven't been working with that.
We haven't been, no.
I don't remember.
Can we just do
We can just
that?
remove it and then we
Or
can.
we gotta,
do we need to vote on it or something?
Policy that y'all adopted.
I don't know nothing about.
Well, I can see if that was an
Program.
EDC sponsored event, which this is not a sponsored event, the private ones are not.
Yeah, see, I think that was the tenor of that, is that it has to be an EDC sponsored event, like the Christmas parade or, or the street dance or things like that. And maybe just fall in two different categories. One's more of a grant and the other is a sponsored event. So maybe just differentiate that. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Is that okay?
The word festival is problematic to begin with because I was told as I took my strong stance that I don't want to see the businesses downtown that are already struggled caught in situations where you got gates and blockades and things like that, and there's no compensation for those struggling business to begin with. So I took that strong stand, and I was told, well, the word festival implies entry gates. That's why they put up the fences. And so that's why I strongly said, I highly recommend as a city, don't venture to put gates and fences up. And then I haven't heard back except for subtle quips and whatnot. But that's what I want to do. I want to leave downtown open. So whatever that takes, the word festival seems to be problematic. Events maybe, and just leave it at that. And some of this grant stuff, again, I don't understand that as well. But there are other places that, besides downtown, that we could work a deal. So let's work a deal. But downtown, it's problematic for me when we're already squeezed on space to now restrict that space. And some people were having trouble getting out their doors. And I've seen it done 2 years in a row, and I just didn't want to see it done again.
What does that mean, though? What did you just say?
The word festival was told to me implies that you have a gate with fences.
Oh,
So you
I
have
see.
entryway. And that's what I was told is the deal. Well, if you bring them downtown or wherever, they're gonna put up the fences and the gate.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, and then I had business owners get upset about it each year.
Well, I don't recall ever putting this policy.
I don't remember ever having to pay or something on a downtown event unless I.
As long as it's a MEDC sponsored, we can control whether there's gates or not.
I think that's.
And we don't serve alcohol.
I think what you're saying, it fixes the same problem. Let's just say if it's an MEDC sponsored event, it's free to all.
Right.
And but we still have the ability to grant for area events, festivals and events where it doesn't negatively impact the businesses.
That's all I'm asking.
Yeah,
Just don't negatively impact the downtown that's already struggling.
Yeah,
And whatever that entails, I'm for it.
okay.
I'm gonna do a little bit of homework, see if the EDC has adopted a festival grant policy, because it, again, just looking at the website, it looks like it has. But, let me find out if you have or not. Again, just, somebody used the word, the MEDC Festival Grant Program. So that sounds to me like there was something at some point that, and again, it might not have been any of y'all.
I don't think it was any of us, yeah, for sure.
It sounds like it wasn't officially done, so it must have been something else.
Yeah, okay. Sorry, Dave, you've got all kinds of homework.
I know.
Paying the big bucks.
All right, well,
Call that admin transfer, right?
I know, yeah.
So, do you have any directions from us on this, or were you just gonna take the
What I
minutes
wanted to do
and
was
work
just
it?
kind of show you guys, what you have budgeted in years past, and getting a list from Patty to be able to talk about it, and maybe next meeting, we have her here to kind of explain some of those events and, some of the budget increases, some of the events that are going away, like the pet parade, to make sure you guys are okay with them. And she
Should
can also
we-
give us a year-to-date on, here's what we've spent on, these, different events.
Don't we have to get to an agreement before the next meeting?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, as far as rolling up these downtown things and actually allocating a budget number to events, are we gonna vote on that next time?
Well, I would say just looking at everything across the board, each one of these, other than the pet parade, has had some merit in the past, and I would be in favor of all of them except that. But with that said, most of these numbers reflect numbers that in actuality, we're half.
Exactly.
We spend half of that. And so I would just like to be more realistic and hone those prices down, and again, take that overage money and apply that to something that's
Can you do that, Dave?
revitalization.
Can you help us get to a more realistic view?
So rolling all that up under a single events category, the more realistic number, and then having a separate number for downtown revitalization.
Exactly.
Right.
Potentially a single category.
A single category for downtown revitalization, rolling up all of these events under, and sorted out with their actual, what it really costs, not what we're just budgeting, but what it really costs. And then taking the rest of it and put it in our downtown reserve, right?
Or revitalization, and then the reserve will be at some other later date, will be split
Whether we
into
spend
general
it-
fund versus downtown revitalization.
Yeah.
Right.
So we're allocating.
Mine is, again, like I mentioned, there are statutory requirements that say if you spent money on this category, we'll call it the last, 3 years.
Oh, is it 3 years or whatever?
The
Okay.
line item will still be there.
That's fine.
Okay.
You don't have to budget
Just make it
anything.
zero.
Right, is that
Okay.
zeroed out?
Yeah, I thought it was a year, so I think, yeah, okay. Just,
That's understandable, but we just won't budget anything for it. Okay.
Sounds good.
But the ones that we are going to budget for are going to be shown on the budget.
Correct.
We're gonna leave them in one, we're gonna leave it in one event, budget, one total number with a policy document that says, here's where we're breaking that down, here's where we're spending that. Because if the Music and Mud Bugs Festival, falls off a cliff, and, you know, he doesn't have it next year, we don't want to need, there's no need to come back and EDC have to amend your budget because you're now not spending that, but you really want to spend it on the new event that.
I think that's fine. We're not pigeonholing ourselves into anything that we
I
can.
know, but the public wants to know what we're spending our money on. And this budget, according to Mary Ann, is not going to have that on it. So what is this thing you're talking about that we'd be able to see?
Right, you know, we have a document, you know, we put it on the website, you know, EDC, budgeted events. It's there, we're not hiding it, we're not doing anything with it, but it's just not part of your budget. So again, if these events don't happen.
She'll keep up with it on her books, that the quilt walk, we're spending $7,000, but we only spent $4,000, so next year we could go down.
Right, and
But she'll have, Mary Ann will have all that in her office. But the public will never see that. See, and as it is right now, the public could see this right here tomorrow.
Yeah, I see your point.
That we've spent, what we've spent on the quilt walk.
Right. Yeah, I'll certainly have a conversation with her and Gary and see if they're.
It doesn't help. I've already had 3 with them, and this is the way they say they're going to do the budget, so.
I'll take that message back to them.
I just want to make sure that there's a piece of paper somewheres, or it's on somebody's somewheres, that the public, when they want to know what the quilt walk cost, we can get it. Because this budget is not going to have it in there. It's going to have $174,000 spent on events, budgeted to spend on events.
Right.
And it will not be broken down.
We'll still have expenditures,
Carol, we need
so
to
we
be
can,
broken.
we'll have an expenditures list that we can
Yeah, we'll
refer back to. We're not going to be totally blind. Huh?
It's not going to be in a line item, is what you're saying, as to what we spend?
Exactly.
Even, like, when we get our monthly budget reports, it's not going to have it in there?
She's talking about being able to be a public knowledge.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, everything we do is public. So when Carol comes and presents her budget, I mean, her monthly financial report, it'll show what we spent on the quilt walk.
Yeah, we're not hiding anything.
It's just, what they're saying is the document you see here, this one right here, that's where it's going to land, not specifically in the budget, just as a line item, because that way we can reallocate as we need to. But ultimately, it will show up on the report that you do, so that you will know what was spent on that particular line item.
I don't know that. You know that?
It shows up every month. All the expenditures of the MEDC shows up on the month financial.
We know what we spent.
It has, because we've had it on the budget.
But it shows up as
And
an
now
expenditure.
it's not going to be on the budget anymore.
Well, it won't be on the budget, but it'll be in the expenditures on that line item for sure, right? It's got to be.
Yeah, but Jeff, the fact that
Let's hope
what
so.
you're saying is it's a public image issue. I looked up the budget today, and I see what you guys are doing. I look at it tomorrow, after David talks to whoever he has and gets rid of it, all I'm going to see is the line item.
He's only going to see
Don't
$174,000.
spend the money. At least I have an idea that this is what your intent is to do.
Ah, I got you.
Yes.
And if you don't have it, you don't do it, okay, big deal.
Well, it's never been a problem for us to move money from one line item to
Yeah,
another.
but this is a public image issue.
Ah, I
But
got
this is
you.
the recommendation of the,
I decided to come here tonight and listen to this. And I said, oh, wow, look at all these events you're doing, Christmas parade, all this stuff like that. Do I go to the Christmas parade? Maybe, maybe not, but at least I know what your intent is.
Yeah, that makes
And
sense.
so that public image is, oh, so these are the things I can look forward to. And that's what I thought, and I'm sorry I don't know
No.
your name.
That's Carol.
Yes.
That's what Caroline was saying.
Yeah, I got it. I mean, I think I see the intent from Gary's standpoint, but I understand the public optics of this would be not so
This is
good.
economic development, so
Yeah.
your
right.
budget is to.
It's your tax dollars.
Is there a better way to where the public can see this every month, where we don't have to deal with voting on moving money from one event to another? Because I get the practical side, it's just a pain in the butt to move money from the snow event to the Christmas parade or whatever happening on the same day. Can we just have a big number? This is what the events are. We can spend it on different events, but then we break out what we actually spend. Is that?
It seems
she's
like
asking for a
it shouldn't
piece
be
of
that
paper.
hard, it seems like it shouldn't be that hard
But we're
to
dumbass.
get both things done. And I would just direct staff to look into that because there's some very valid concerns that's been expressed. And public image does matter and the eye test does matter. So I would think that staff is going to.
I don't want it to look like we're hiding anything, and I
Right.
do want it to be publicly visible what we're spending money on, but also from a practical side,
Yeah.
we want it.
And that
practical.
number, I think we all agree, needs to come down.
For sure.
Again, because based on what we've done in the past, we've typically hit no more than 60% of what we allotted.
Yeah.
And so I expect that number would go down.
Sure, we'll take a look at it, and again, I'm, you know, like you, I know there's a way to accomplish it, to both, you know, follow kind of, you know, best practices, you know, for budgeting, but at the same time, you know, just ensure, you know, total transparency to make
Right.
sure, you know, that the public knows, you know, where the tax dollars are.
Exactly.
Okay.
Good deal.
All right, so can we conclude our discussion on the budget now? We're pretty much done? Beat that dead horse? Okay. So that is, that's it, right?
And we kind of hit the event sponsorships, you know, again, for what we've done. You know, again, if there are other thoughts or things that you guys want to, you know, discuss, I'm happy to.
Well, I think it's already been expressed. If we haven't spent any money on it, we probably don't need to have it on our budget. And secondly, if it's not an event that we feel has merit, like the Lone Star Flag Fest or the Pet Parade, and we can kind of remove those whenever the rules allow, I guess, for that. As far as every other event I see on here, they've all been very successful for the most part. Anybody disagree with any of that? No? Okay. So then I think we're pretty good. Okay. And with that, do we have anything else we wanted to talk about? Yes, no, maybe? All right. Can I hear a motion to adjourn?
I make that motion.
Okay, so Ryan has made a motion to adjourn. Can I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor of adjourning, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it, and we are now adjourned at 8:25. Wow. Good job, guys. We made it for what we got out of here early last time.